let's go ahead and get this show started, people. What is going on, everybody? Thank you all so much for tuning into this live stream segment of Mikasa Says to Kasa. And of course, as always, I'm your humble host, Niko House. Today I have a very exciting show, a very informative show. We're going to talk about the use of tear gas. We're also going to talk about the person who unfortunately passed away shortly after she had tear gas used on her. We're going to talk about Joe Biden and this nomination that he clinched without any rigging whatsoever. We're gonna talk about the Nancy Pelosi endorsement of AOC. Like I said, my DMs are always open for apologies. We're also gonna talk about Nina Turner's new organization, or excuse me, new podcast. That's dope. I'm excited. I'm really excited about it. And we're gonna talk about some dumb takes, some really stupid takes on the comparison to COVID-19 and the protesting. And y'all probably know what I'm talking about. But first and foremost, we have seen police officers use tear gas on protesters over and over again. And as a person who has been in the military, who had an extensive class, I remember because I hated that class, but I was in the military and had an extensive class on the Geneva Convention. You know, what went down at the Geneva Convention. Why we adhere to the Geneva Convention. And the most important rules that came out of the Geneva Convention. One of those rules were to not ever use chemical weapons on anybody, period, point blank. If you all recall, the use of chemical weapons is the quote-unquote red line that Obama has used to invade Syria, if you all recall, right? So the idea that we would be using chemical weapons in the United States is just absolutely and utterly ridiculous, right? The idea that we would violate the Geneva Convention, hint, we always violate the Geneva Convention, but the idea that we would violate the Geneva Convention on American soil is absurd. A lot of people have been making the point lately that tear gas is in fact a chemical weapon, and that we are in fact violating the Geneva Convention. And of course, those who don't know how to use Google, DuckDuckGo, or Bing have just decided, no, that's not true, that's crazy, you're out of your mind. Somebody like myself, who doesn't believe everything he reads on the internet, decided to do some research. And I was like when I heard it, when I first saw it, I was like, oh snap, that's true. And then I had to confirm, because an article by, I guess this is something that's been being discussed a lot lately, and USA Today actually covered it. And this is what they actually did an article. What's today? Is today the 6th? No, it is the 7th, right? 6th. Oh man, so they did this today. So, is the use of tear gas prohibited by the Geneva Convention that the United States is in fact a part of? Let's check it out. Chemical Weapons Convention and the 1925 Geneva Protocol ban the use of tear gas in warfare. The 1925 Geneva Protocol categorized tear gas as a chemical warfare agent and banned its use in war shortly after World War I. The protocol was signed at a conference held in Geneva and took effect on February 8th, 1928, according to the United Nations website. However, the text of the protocol did not go into depth on what gases were banned. Bruh, tear gas, if it is gaseous, and it has enough chemicals to make you cry and non-functional, I think that's enough detail to qualify as tear gas. I'm just saying, but hey. It goes on to say, under the protocol, the United States reserved the right, as usual, to use riot control agents in cases of controlling rioting prisoners of war or situations where civilian casualties can be avoided. Question, shooting, are we shooting tear gas at rioting prisoners of war? No. Have civilian casualties been accrued? Yeah, a lot actually. Okay. Goes on to say the United States could also use it in rescue missions to recover isolated personnel and outside of combat zones to protect convoys from civil disturbances. There is no convoy, by the way. There's no military convoy. I mean, there might have, convoys basically when a bunch of military vehicles get together and they go from city to city, and they may not necessarily be in a combat zone when they're going from city to city, but if there's a sudden attack, they made a distinction saying we could protect ourselves using tear gas in that scenario. Now, it goes on to say that in 1993, nations could begin signing the United Nations Chemical Weapons Convention, the CWC, that outlawed the use of riot control agents in warfare. Riot control agents under the convention are defined as any chemical not listed in the schedule where which can produce rapidly in humans sensory irritation or disabling physical effects, which disappear within a short time following the termination of exposure. That's tear gas. A database by the International Committee of the Red Cross shows the ban of riot control agents in war went into effect in 1997, but still made it legal for law enforcement to use. Somebody want to explain to me how that works out? You're telling me chemical weapons are so dangerous that we can't, or tear gas specifically, is so dangerous that we can't use it in a war zone against our quote-unquote adversaries and enemies, which of course we all know, as Muhammad Ali said, it's just other poor people of color that they're sending us over to go kill. But nonetheless, they claim that we can't use chemical weapons against our adversaries in a war zone, but then police can use chemical weapons against us, which, by the way, this isn't a war zone. I don't know if y'all knew this, but no, the United States supposedly is not a war zone. And then, of course, the Senate approved the CWC, which once again is the Chemical Weapons Convention, April 25th, 1997, 74 votes, 26. Hold up. That sounds weird. Because I know how the United States work, ladies and gentlemen. We like to ban, for example, let's just put chemical weapons to the side. Let's talk about nuclear weapons. How many countries have we threatened because they are building nuclear weapons? Actually, not even that. They're just trying to achieve like nuclear efficiency. And then we said, oh, that's too close, and you'll be able to make a nuclear weapon if you go any further, and therefore we have to sanction you to the point where all of your people begin to starve and begin to die. Remember, like that happens pretty often, right? But the problem with that is, of course, we have a bunch of nuclear weapons, and we're hypocrites. We're raging hypocrites. And we all know the real reason that we don't want countries like Iran to have nuclear weapons, because we've given them every single reason to use it. We've given Iran every reason to want to defend themselves. And it's a very powerful nation. So if they had their military and their militia in addition to nuclear weapons, then they could actually be a problem for the United States. They're already a problem for the United States. Now let's put that back to the side. Bring back in tear gas. Doesn't it seem like the only reason we ratified the CWC, the Chemical Warfare Convention, or Chemical Weapons Convention, excuse me, is so that other countries couldn't use tear gas and perhaps other agents on us, so that we could use that as another excuse to invade other nations? But we wanted to reserve the right to still deploy dangerous weapons on United States citizens. We wanted to reserve the right for the police to use weapons that we considered too horrid to use on enemies or adversaries from other nations. Does anybody find that a wee bit disturbing? And by the way, to answer the question, does tear gas violate the CWC, which is the Chemical Weapons Convention that our Senate approved? Does it violate it technically using them in the United States? No. But does the CWC admit that they're too dangerous to use? Yeah, it did, unless you're using them on American citizens and they're owned by police. On top of that, once again, the Geneva Code also says, despite what the damn CWC says, the Geneva Code that we signed on to says that we absolutely cannot use tear gas. If you do, that is a war crime. And there is no distinction as to whether or not you're doing it on your own soil or doing it in another country, whether or not it's the police officers doing it to their own citizens or the military doing it in another country. So the answer is yes. The answer is absolutely. We are committing war crimes on our own citizens. Once again, we should not be all that surprised by this, considering Obama literally militarized the police. So I guess we shouldn't be all that surprised. But they are using a chemical weapons agent. And by the way, it's problematic while happening under Trump, but it was problematic when it happened under Obama too. Considering that Obama was the one who actually claimed that Assad used chemical weapons agents on his own people, and that turned out to be a lie. Meanwhile, we're literally filming cops as they use a weapon that is considered illegal, unlawful, a violation of international law. Who exactly is going to be held accountable here? And I found this point particularly interesting because I see so many people, mostly conservatives here, justifying the use of a chemical weapons agent on peaceful protesters because of a very small minority of looters who have, for the most part, not even been proven to be a part of the protest. They're just a small sect of people who have taken advantage of the situation. But let's be clear, I don't think that's even the reason that tear gas is being used. Tear gas is being used because most police forces are full of fascists. Most mayors and governors are supportive of authoritarianism and fascism. Because these police officers are a bunch of military rejects who think that they're soldiers. But if you notice, there's a clear pattern being shown of every time they try to go after somebody one-on-one, it's always somebody smaller than them. A lot of the time, it's a little petite girl. They never try to see somebody that's my size with the ones. So the moral of the story is They're using chemical weapons agents because they can. Now, out of curiosity, have you heard any Western organization or Western country or anybody on the Human Rights Committee threaten to sanction us? Have you heard anybody threaten to invade us? Well, I'm waiting for that call for Maduro to be like, hey, y'all, it's about that time. We got to go in there and overthrow the government. You know what Trump said about Iran? It just reminded me. You're gonna love this. You're gonna love this. To the leaders of Iran, this was said on, oh God, it was said on January 12th, 2020. To the leaders of Iran, do not kill your protesters. Thousands have already been killed or imprisoned by you. And the world is watching. More importantly, the USA is watching. Turn your internet back on and let reporters roam free. Stop the killing of your great Iranian people. How anyone can take this man seriously is beyond me. How anyone can pretend that he is somehow this altruistic pillar of just moral centeredness. Like, come on. Really? He's a liar. And he is allowing and actually supporting the use of chemical weapons on his own countrymen. And he's telling you that he and his supporters are actually the patriots. Interesting. Some pretty twisted logic, don't you think? He's a liar. He's full of it. He doesn't care. He doesn't care about you. He doesn't even care about your business like he claims. He doesn't care. He cares no more than Obama does. These are the facts. Now with that being said, if you want to know why they decided that chemical weapons were not appropriate to be used, this story might give you a little bit, it might enlighten the reasons as to why, or enlighten you on the reasons as to why. This is reported by the Lantern. Columbus looks into the death of Ohio State grad who attended the downtown protest. The city of Columbus is reviewing the death of an Ohio State graduate who died after being exposed to chemical weapon agents while attending protests in downtown Columbus, Ohio. Sarah Grossman died May 30th at Sycamore Hospital in Miamisburg, Ohio, according to the Montgomery County coroner. The autopsy is expected to take 8 weeks, and the cause of death is unknown. Grossman graduated from Ohio State in May with a degree in environment, economy, and development and sustainability. And she also has a degree in Spanish. The city of Columbus is looking into possible connections with the Columbus protests and Grossman's death, according to a tweet from the city on Wednesday. The city also said the Columbus Fire Department does not have a record of emergency medical services transporting her to any area hospitals. Really? According to social media reports, Grossman attended some Columbus protests, which began after the death of George Floyd, a black man who died in Minneapolis police custody on May 25th. The family has requested privacy at this time, and the story will be updated. Now, there are a lot of people who are saying, there were some reports yesterday that said Sarah likely died of her asthma. Because if you've never inhaled tear gas, It's already horrid. It's horrific to deal with before having asthma. And I know because I've had to inhale it. It's a thing in the military. Don't ask me why. But that was also before I had asthma. I felt like I was going to die before I had asthma. And I know for a fact, if that stuff got on my clothes, if I inhaled it, a big whiff of it, if I was in the middle of it and you can't run anywhere, you can't go anywhere, no matter what, like what you do, you can't escape it. Because literally, like I said, it's on your clothes. You get in the car, it's now in your car. It gets in your hair, it's now in your hair. It's on your shoes, it's on your sock. You're breathing it and inhaling it, and there is nothing that little inhaler is going to do to save you. And so if the connection is made that this tear gas, and like I said, the article even made it very clear. Now, it was chemical agents that are being investigated in the cause of her death, which were launched, of course, by the police departments. This is a peaceful. Does this look like a looter to you? A college graduate trying to be an ally, doing what we ask so many people to do. I'm sure that if the police department is found guilty of manslaughter here, I'm sure that all of a sudden she's going to have a criminal record. Okay, as long as Donald Trump's back, that's what's going to happen. But as far as we know right now, no criminal record. Seems like a nice enough young woman. They're telling you the looters are the problem. Those are the ones we're after. The rioters are the problem. The looters, the rioters, the violent, the looters, the rioters. So why is it the peaceful protesters who keep getting arrested and potentially a peaceful protester who died as a result of of rioters and looters she had nothing to do with? Someone want to explain that math to me? It's because the rioters and the looters are not the ones the cops are going after. Rioters and looters. You can look up videos of people rioting or looting and destroying property, and you see cops sitting here like this. This is why the Geneva Convention banned the use of these weapons as chemical warfare. This is why. And God forbid, I wouldn't be surprised if there are more people who have either died or are on their deathbed, and this is just the one that got reported because of this. Because this is what many of these police officers and law enforcement wanted. They wanted to see people suffer. They wanted to terrorize peaceful protesters. Why? Because what's like this? Now, to be honest, there are mostly white people protesting, actually. There's a lot of black people, but there's more white people in the world in any given area than anywhere else. So it makes sense. But you all have to remember what happened during the abolitionist days, during the civil rights movement. Do you all forget? Because I know a lot of people are like, oh, all lives matter. No. Yes, all lives matters, but I mean, if you're only going to use as reflexive defense or attack against the phrase Black Lives Matter, then clearly all lives don't matter. Only the ones you care about. So, you can kindly shut the fuck up with that. But even in that context, it's still a BLM issue. Because do you all forget how white people who assisted slaves and runaway slaves were treated? How many abolitionists died? How many, conductors, if you will, of the Underground Railroad died because they were hiding black people and runaway slaves in their houses? Do you all forget how many white people were attacked for speaking up for the civil rights of black people. Why? Because how dare you speak up for those animals? That's why. That's how it has always been. It is not any different. The cops are trying to make an example out of people. They're literally shooting tear gas and beating the hell out of white people for what they are standing for. And you know how I know this? Because I just saw a bunch of protesters protesting quarantine with guns a few weeks back. No tear gas was shot at them. Wasn't so much as a baton swung. These people had guns, big guns. Cops didn't hurt them. Cops didn't step in to violate their First Amendment rights, even though they were breaking city ordinance to protest. Think those protesters had a permit? Out of curiosity? So what's the difference? For all those people who got all the answers, all the contrarians out there, all the people who want to pretend like you're being objective. I'm just being objective, that's all. Why's everything got to be about race? See, because I know my history. Not understanding how intricate is, or how intricate racism is in our history as the United States, is as detrimental to your understanding of these issues as not understanding Western imperialism and United States imperialism when it comes to the issues of international diplomacy. Like, you can't really talk about the American Revolutionary War, for example, without talking about the fact that black people a lot of the times were told first Washington tried to ban them from participating in the military, and then what happened was Great Britain said, well, if you defect, come to us, we'll make sure you're free. And then George Washington was like, no, but also we were really good. We were some great soldiers. So they're like, no, go fight and we'll give you your freedom. You can't talk about the American Revolutionary War without that side of the story. Obviously the Civil War, but you can't talk about the war aspect of it without talking about how black people were forced to fight for one side because they were slaves, and then forced to fight for another side through conscription. Being told, because all of a sudden now all the elites of the Northeast, they were not supportive of slavery, but like it was an economic issue. Basically, it was not profitable for the country. Like, slaves were just inefficient, and that's why they're like, hold up. And honestly, most Northeasterners at that time, there was like a cultural beef with the South, and there was the idea that, oh, how dare you separate from the country. They were considered the patriots back then, the Northeasterners. No pun intended. But you can't tell that story without talking about the racism that black soldiers on both sides had to deal with. You can't talk about even, was it the Vietnam War? Was it Vietnam? I think it was Vietnam. Vietnam and World War II. And probably World War I too. Where black people were being put on the front lines to take the initial bullets. Going to fight for a country they didn't even have equal rights in. Do you understand how absolutely absurd that is? You want to talk about race baiting. The conservatives who scream that everyone always wants to talk about race are the biggest race baiters and sit there and pretend like they don't care. No. You don't want to face facts. The white people who are speaking up for the rights of black and brown people all over this country are being attacked right now. The white people who are speaking up for the privilege of going to whatever service they want to go to service for, and also the right to assemble. But mostly wanted the privilege of being served and going out and enjoying their lives, which I agree. I mean, I'm not gonna say I disagree with that privilege, but they didn't get attacked. They didn't get tear gas, did they? No cop even had so much as a gas mask on to prepare for it. There was no curfew enacted. Why do you think that is? Why do you think that is? Out of curiosity. If you don't see the obvious answer by this point, I don't know what to tell you. But those who have always been anti-racist have always felt the brunt of the attacks from the police state. That's a fact, bro. Regardless of how uncomfortable it makes you feel, regardless of how much you want to bitch and complain and moan, oh my God, poor white people get treated badly too. Yeah, y'all get treated badly, but it's not even comparable. And you really only get treated as badly or somewhat as badly when it's only other poor white people and other rich white people around. Trust me. Go to Chicago and see if a poor white person is treated as somebody as the same as a black man from Southside Chicago. They're going, bro, even poor white Chicagoans will be like, man, yeah, right. Not even. It's not even close. Nothing, and I do mean nothing, gets better when you add and they're black to it. Nothing. Go ahead, try to come up with something. Bet you can't. Bet you can't do it. Except for maybe basketball. As a caveat. Because if you're European and you've been playing professionally, you do get, like, you even get more love. You know, you're what do they say? You have a very high basketball IQ. Now they've been changing that because that has been a phrase that basically they've used to describe unathletic white players, to say that they're very intelligent. But when black players are just ferociously athletic and talented, it's wow, those are some great athletes. They're just way more athletic than everybody on the floor. Nothing. You think being autistic is bad? Try being autistic while being a black person living on your own with little to no help. You think being a woman is problematic? Try being a woman of color. At least when a white girl gets kidnapped, it makes the damn 6 p.m. news. A black woman gets kidnapped, a Mexican woman gets kidnapped. You'll be lucky if it gets posted as a sign on your gas station, and they're definitely not going to look for you. You think you think having money is actually easier when you're black? No. It's the opposite. People start gunning for you. They start demanding you sell out. If you don't sell out, you are crushed faster than anyone else. And do you think being a poor white or being poor in general gets better when you're black or better when you're white? Now, of course, nobody wants to be poor. And there are certain circumstances where there's some people that just don't have any luck whatsoever. And that's unfortunate. But we're talking about on average here. You think being a high school graduate is easier being black or being white? I'm not talking about being black in Atlanta. I'm talking about everywhere else. On average. The difference is when you talk about white privilege, you will see the average person who tries to make the argument or argue with you. They always say, oh man, but there's so many poor people in this country. Poor white people are here too. Poor white lives matter. That is so nice for you to only have to worry about being poor. Black people, bro, you know, I was poor for the majority of my childhood. Me not eating wasn't my greatest fear. The people who looked at me sideways in the convenience store, that was my fear. Avoiding white people as I walked past them at night because they made it clear that they were not comfortable with my presence there. That was something I had to worry about. Getting beat up in a Burger King as 3 white girls literally try to pull a cop off, damn near assaulting a man, telling the cop that I wasn't the issue, as he still they proceeded to beat the shit out of me, and none of them even get questioned. They didn't deserve, I mean, they didn't get questioned to prove that I was innocent, but they also didn't get questioned about the fact they literally jumped on top of a police officer. We have the fear of, wow, if I'm walking in the park, a white girl can call the cops, there's a black man assaulting me, and she assumes that they will come and kill me if she just acts well enough. Like, she just got to put on the best act she can. That is what we live with. Being poor is the least of, bro, black people have been poor so damn long. That's the least of our fears. Rich and poor is not how black people define privilege. Hell, most black people would say if they ended up rich, it had largely to do with luck. But the inherent fear, the double takes, making sure, you know, that you're not too close to somebody who would be uncomfortable with your presence, not being able to be passionate because every time you're passionate, you're called angry. That is what it is like. Knowing that people can take advantage of your blackness, take advantage of your plight, and you'll be shut down for calling it out while a white person is celebrating and enriched by it. Cough, cough, Democrats. Knowing that it pays really well to sell out, so you got to deal with people like Candace Owens, who get to just blame black people for all of her fucking problems while she gets paid. Why? Because white people write her paychecks, and that's what white people want to see on that side. That's why. Maybe if there were enough people, if white privilege and inherent racial bias and racism didn't exist, Candace would be broke as a joke, and she might actually be forced to not sell out. But racism is an American pastime, baby, and business is a booming if you haven't been paying attention. gonna move on to the next topic. So by the way, shout out to all the allies out there. Shout out to all the allies, man. I'm sorry. I really, I just feel horrible for that family. Last thing you think that would happen, especially on the 30th, when all this stuff is just unraveling, you would not think that a peaceful daytime protest would lead to your daughter dying, or your sister, or your best friend dying. Nobody thought like that would be the case. Let's see what excuses they make up for that shit. Whew. Sad world we live in, man. So, moving on to the next topic. Y'all know that the narrative has been that is actually rioters and looters that are the problem, and that's why police have been so aggressive. It has nothing to do with the fact that they're just fucking psychopaths. Excuse my language. It has nothing to do with that. Has nothing to do with the fact that they're just crazy. And for a long time, the powers that be, including the police departments, have been able to pitch the idea that riots are always the initiator of police violence, right? Like the reason that things got crazy in Chicago, what was it, the 60s and in the 90s with oh man, don't oh my gosh, who was the man who got beat? Rodney King. Good God Almighty. All right, back at it. But they wanted to have people believe that the riots were happening from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. No, that's not what happens. What happens is that peaceful protests are infiltrated, and peaceful protesters are agitated, and they are agitated and infiltrated by violence from police officers. Now, how do we know this, ladies and gentlemen? Because we are fortunate enough now to live in the era of social media and a 4K recorder at the palm of your hands. You could damn near make a documentary in 2020 just on police brutality with your damn cell phone. Edit it with your cell phone, film it with your cell phone, upload it with your cell phone, which would be very difficult. It'll take a long time unless you got really good at Wi-Fi, but you can do everything with this. The importance of being able to film police corruption has literally saved the narrative. As we had one side trying to tell us that Russians were the cause of all these riots, and then we had another side trying to tell us that Antifa was the cause of all these riots. And then we come to find out through film, through exposure, that it is actually, for the most part, been police officers sparking off on peaceful protesters. I mean, hell, the other day in Miami, live coverage, I saw protesters backing up and walking away. And when one man turned around, luckily he turned back around to make sure that the cops weren't near him. But when he turned around, a cop tried to swing his baton at him in the back of his head. Luckily, the guy turned back around and ducked it. And it was live on. He did that right in front of a local television station. But now Tucson, Arizona is trying to stop this accountability that once again has literally saved the narrative. This is according to Tucson.com. Tucson creates a new ordinance to deter aggressive First Amendment auditors. Oh God. The Tucson Police Department will no longer be forced to star in videos that cater to cop haters. Is that what we're calling that now? Videos that cater to cop haters. You mean videos that expose corruption and abuse on behalf of police officers? Because that's what that is. But let's continue. The city council took action last week on a distinctly 21st century problem. People showing up at crime scenes with cell phones in hand, looking to create conflicts they can post online for profit. What? That's a super weird way to say people who just happen to be standing there. No, like, bro, who the I mean, once again, this might be a black thing, but even white friends don't do this. What person do you know sees cop lights and runs to the police? Like, you might do this. Damn, that's crazy, man. Y'all see what's going on over there? Nah, bro, I ain't been over there yet. You might do that. You might be looking from a distance, but generally, you don't film unless you think that there's some weird stuff going on. Now, some people, because they've basically been forced now at this point because of the corruption, now some people will literally film you like just to prevent you from doing some crazy shit. But generally speaking, people don't just run over the cops and start just recording them at a crime scene. And who the bro, how do they think that you make money online? How do they think that happens? Do you really think that like police brutality is such a super profitable niche that people are running to put themselves in harm's way? People have been charged for holding a fucking phone and exposing police brutality. You think they're putting themselves in harm's way because this really specific niche is profitable? Come on, bro. Whoever wrote this is a moron. So let me just go ahead and say that. But let me continue. Kelly Presnell at Arizona Daily Star File. You're a moron, Kelly. Just letting you know. You have zero idea how to make money through video online. That's not a thing. They don't even provide any example. Like, if you're gonna make a claim like that, I'm sorry, this is just really bothering me. Cause I'm a video creator, right? I create videos for money online. If you're gonna make an outlandish claim like that, you better put some damn statistics on the screen. This what yeah, man, people just be running up on cops to film them and make money. What kind of dumbassery is this? Oh, this is what we're dealing with, y'all. This is what we're dealing with. Anyway. The provocateurs are part of a loose network of people who call themselves First Amendment auditors and claim they're protecting the public's right to monitor government activity. Listen, as I respect these First Amendment auditors, whoever they may be, but I've never even heard of them until just now. And you're passing ordinances to protect them from, yeah, like you passed an ordinance on April 27th, right as you're about to send your riot police to attack protesters. So that's when you pass the ordinance to try and ban filming. Interesting. There are only, oh my God. There are about a dozen such people that are operating in the entire state of Arizona. A former participant told the Star. A dozen? Hold up. How many examples of police brutality have we seen? Audio Funk Dollar, thank you very much for the super chat. How many examples of police brutality have we seen since April 25th? Or May 25th, excuse me. I mean, shit, how many examples of police brutality have we seen in general? And so, because of about 12 people in Arizona, Tucson passes a law to make it so that no one else can exercise their rights. Once again, fascists being fascists, fascists supporting fascism. And y'all know I don't like throwing that word around. But in cases where actual fascists are being fascists, this is basically, I mean, it's a pretty clear-cut example. At the very, very minimum, it's authoritarianism. This is this communism that the right likes to, you know, make this caricature of. That's what they say. This is communism. This is the communism that they swear the left wants to bring to them. And I am quite aware of the authoritarian left. There is an authoritarian left. But guess what? The right is inherently authoritarian as well. I mean, y'all do believe in a God, and y'all do believe in the concept of blind faith. As a Christian, I am very familiar with it. And you believe in leaders who support the concept of both of these things. And because of the evangelical nature of your religious practices, you tend to gravitate towards politicians who also believe that. A patriarchal figure who's supposed to control your every move, your every thought, your every life. And they're your leading examples, and you don't question them because it's blind faith. Why do you think that QAnon, y'all remember QAnon, the psyop that's that I believe is being done by the right to keep Trump supporters placated. Why do you think they're always saying trust the plan? That is an invocation of the idea of blind faith that is pushed in the Bible. And guess what? Those evangelical patriots just eat that type of stuff up. Just trust the plan. And I'm a spiritual person. And I believe in God. But I believe I'm a Christian that's true to the definition of Christianity. The strictest definition is Christ-like. Christ was against authoritarianism. He was actually against religion. He was against the abuse of power, the institutional abuse of power. You know, I'm like a Christian that you're like supposed to be. And yet, once again, we have practicing authoritarian. Like these people are practicing and engaging in this authoritarianism that the right often associates with communism, quote unquote. I throw the air quotes up because, you know, they have their own whole ass definition for communism. But this group is engaging in the same communism that they swear to baby Jesus. That's what they're trying to avoid. Interesting. It says that he said some regard themselves as sovereign citizens, an ideology linked to domestic terrorism, according to the FBI. Well, the FBI has always been so good at labeling domestic terrorists. Right? It said that the Tucson City Council members unanimously passed a new ordinance to curb such activity after viewing video of an extended verbal attack. Really? They passed this ordinance after viewing a video of a verbal attack on a pair of Tucson Police Department officers earlier this year. Are you kidding me? Y'all out here, we're violating rights over verbal attacks? Oh my God. Well, then they must be passing some pretty damn crazy ordinances around that part, considering the literal attacks their citizens have been under, right? Gotta be. Boy, I know that city council was working overtime to pass ordinances for accountability of police brutality. I know that. They gotta be. Come on. This is authoritarianism. That's what this is about. Exercise corrupt authority without accountability. That is what this is about. And this is the type of behavior that many, if not maybe you who have watching this show, but many people have been cheering on. And they swear to God they are not the communists, the caricature of communism that they are so desperately trying to avoid. We hate the police state. Free Assange. Except for when the police state is doing what we don't want it to do, and when our president betrays the man who he says is partially responsible for getting him elected. But hey, we hate the police state and we hate communism. It's a communism authoritarian. They take all, it's just the elite putting money in their pockets and putting money in the pockets of these rich politicians taking my money and giving tax breaks to themselves, passing executive orders, suppressing and oppressing the people. We don't want that. That's why we like Donald Trump, who is doing exactly all of these things. And we defend him with everything. Come on, bruh. You know what they said? That verbal abuse that those police officers took, those poor police officers. They called them the B word. The councilwoman described it as absolutely horrific. I'm choking up, y'all. That's hard. That's hard. You think that tear gas and rubber bullets hurt? Try being a cop and being called the B word on camera. You don't even know, okay? You don't even know. Really? Absolutely horrific? That's what we're... So you're a police officer who's supposed to be protecting me. Excuse me. Protecting me if I was white and owned property. To clarify that. I'm supposed to... You're just brave men and women in the blue. And you're so sensitive that a person comes up to you and films you, and you then have to convince the city council to pass an ordinance because you didn't like being called the B word one time? What? Oh God. Well, it's no wonder we have protesters getting their sense beat out of them. When cops are so sensitive that being called the B word makes them force a city council to restrict people's rights, to hold them accountable. And they're already supposed to be wearing body cams. No wonder y'all so sensitive. Like, no wonder people getting the crap beat out of them. Y'all can't even handle being called the B word by one person. Man, that's hilarious. That is hilarious. It's scary, but it's so scary that it's hilarious. All right. Now here comes the fun stuff. So, ladies and gentlemen, Joe Biden has clinched the nomination. And once again, it is time to ask ourselves, and I don't know what else. What you want me to say? I know that we could have UBI right now, but hey, people, we got Biden instead. I know we could have single payer health care right now. That could be a main part of the conversation with a legitimate chance to get. But hey, everybody, we got Joe Biden instead. I know we could have transformational climate change legislation right now. It could be in the works. But hey, we got Biden instead. I know we could have an end to endless wars, but we got Biden instead. I know we could have somebody like Tulsi who was going to ban private prisons and decriminalize all drugs with an executive order, but you got Biden instead. I know that the left could have actually had somebody that represents them to beat Donald Trump. Like, because Biden can't beat him. But you got Joe Biden instead, people. I know that y'all have been telling the Democrats not what you want, but what you need for the last 1, 2, 3. I don't know forever, but specifically over the last 4 years. I know y'all established a unity commission and things supposed to be a little bit more fair. And I know they were going to listen to all your problems. I know you're dying from lack of help. I know that y'all been. I know. But it's okay. Because you got Biden instead. And guess what? In November of 2020, you're not going to get Biden instead. In order for Biden to have clinched the nomination, he need 1,991 delegates. Thank you, Gloria. I appreciate it. I like this shirt too. That's why I wore. Thank you, Gloria. But he needed 1,991 delegates to clinch it. Here's the problem with that. I can almost guarantee there's no chance in hell that Biden got those delegates legitimately. I mean, I know we still haven't solved the mystery of the disappearing ballots in California. I know that Bernie raised hundreds of millions of dollars and did not once, outside of Iowa, challenge the legitimacy of these outcomes, knowing that there was some weird, fishy stuff going on, considering that the exit polling in the Democratic primary and the Democratic primary alone was enough to completely deregister elections and spark not only not a recount, people, a new election in that particular state. Not a like a recount stuff. This was new election territory. That's how bad the exit polling was. But when we try to tell people this is not going to work, Bernie, he can talk about all the issues, you know, all the feel-good issues that we want to see, Medicare for all, blah, blah, blah. Every other candidate, you know, even Yang, Marion Williams, you can talk about all those issues, but if you're not going to talk about election integrity, I mean, what the hell? What was the point of even running again? Whenever Donna Brazile admitted it was rigged. Whenever Elizabeth Warren confirmed it was rigged. Whenever Tom Perez confirmed it was rigged. So at that point, why would you not take the necessary steps to ensure that it wouldn't be rigged again? But of course, we ain't about to just hold one person accountable, because y'all participate in the political process as well. And I know a lot of Bernie supporters who were telling us don't even talk about rigging because it would discourage people from going to vote. Because I'm sure that everyone who thinks, man, I'm so glad, like when you hear, I'm so glad my candidate is actually trying to fight to make sure my vote counts, that immediately discourages you from going to vote, right? The idea that someone is making sure your vote counts discourages you from going to vote, right? Some ass backward logic there, huh? But loyal Democrats thought you could just overwhelm. Yeah, because there's a lot of progressives that are loyal Democrats, absolutely. They thought you could just overwhelm the system. You can overwhelm rigging. How's that working out? And now I'll be told to go vote for Biden as his policies have led us to exactly where we're at today. You know what I don't want to hear from? You know who I don't want to hear from, in all seriousness? How many people have been pushing Biden for the last, progressives have been pushing Biden for the last 2 months? When we said, well, at least I did. No, have you lost your mind? Stop trying to convince me to vote for a man who told me he doesn't want his kids to grow up in a racial jungle to justify segregationist policies. Why the hell would you even think that doesn't even begin? Like, what? Like, that's not even a, like, if anyone actually, when you look into Biden and research Biden, because there's a lot of people who stay willfully ignorant so they can justify their grift. There is no way in hell you can bring yourself to vote for him, especially as a black man. But then the protests start that are largely sparked by police brutality on who? A black man. Now, who was the 94 crime bill targeting? We know who, right? Okay. So this is the part, once again, where if you told me and others to vote for Joe Biden before George Floyd's death, you don't get to play superhero now. You don't get to pretend to care about these issues that were largely sparked by Joe Biden himself. Now you want to come over here and play white savior and pretend like you didn't tell us to vote for the man who is at least indirectly responsible for emboldening police departments, police forces, law enforcement everywhere, police unions. He emboldened them and paid them money to put us in prison. He gave them a license to treat us as animals. And that is why people like George Floyd are no longer here. And others have been wrongfully imprisoned. While white mothers, soccer moms in Colorado are wealthy as hell off of marijuana now. And now you want to turn around and pretend to be my ally? No, you try to shame me. You try to tell me I have to vote for one racist or another. I have to choose between the racist and the segregationist. It's just like you try to tell women they need to get over the fact that Biden is an alleged rapist who refuses to acknowledge his past. If I was a woman, my decision to not only give a middle finger to Biden, but to every single one of you who dared to tell them to ignore that, I would give a middle finger to you too if I was a woman. So now we've arrived to the killing of George Floyd, police brutality running rampant, the militarization of police, private prisons and jails are literally being filled with peaceful protesters. They're getting paid, by the way, daily for every single day a protester is occupying that prison. They only have to spend a certain amount of hours there, and after a certain time, if that person is on the books, then the jail gets paid for it. And they make even more money if they aren't longer there for them, if they're not there long enough for them to feed them. Or at least only feed them one meal. Don't forget all the bail money. All of this was exacerbated by the 94 crime bill. You know, the same crime bill that the people who are demanding you vote for Joe Biden have never actually experienced any negative ramifications from. Yeah, we're not the same. Because, boy, me and the 94 crime bill are very familiar at this point. So now you got to deal with the nominee who is both directly and indirectly responsible for everything we're seeing right now. And I'm supposed to be a Democrat because what exactly? What am I supposed to get out of that bargain? trying to figure that out. I mean, hell, literally on the top of the ticket, it was about to be Joe Biden, Mr. Biden crime bill, with Amy Klobuchar, the man responsible for Derek Chauvin being on the streets, or the woman, excuse me, responsible for Derek Chauvin being on the streets still. Are you kidding me? And y'all were going to tell me I better vote for that ticket? Really? Really? Did Joe Biden speak up or speak out against Barack Obama as he militarized the police primarily in communities of color, that where that military equipment was subsequently used on protesters in places like Ferguson and Baltimore? Did Joe Biden speak out when that young woman lost her eye in Standing Rock and the other young woman lost her arm? Has Joe Biden even apologized for the 94 crime bill? Has he showed any indication that he actually plans on doing really anything different than what Donald Trump is doing right now? Other than the fact that we know he wouldn't be tweeting it because the man can't use a damn cell phone to save his life. He would just be doing his authoritarianism behind closed doors like we're used to politicians doing, rather than pretending to be our ally on Twitter. Anybody? Can anybody give me any legitimate reason to believe that the election of Joe Biden would do anything else but put this country back to sleep? See, people like myself who have been victims of police brutality, people like myself who have been a victim of policies like Biden, while the rest of y'all excuse my language, I know some people's kids are watching, while the rest of y'all people got to go to sleep, got to live your lives peacefully. See, this is actually a nice change of pace for us. People actually care about what's happening to us all of a sudden, enough that they would fight for it. This is nice. But you know, like they said, they made it very clear when they got when Hillary lost. See, if Hillary Clinton was president or any other neoliberal, you'd be at brunch right now, wouldn't you? And that's what y'all really want to get back to. You want to get back to brunch. You want to get back to your peaceful lives where the highways aren't blocked, where you're not having to Google where there's a protest at in order to avoid it or be stuck in traffic. You want to get back to your normal lives of only actually having to do anything regarding actually being principled on the issue of race and foreign policy and anything else really in general. You don't really want to have to deal with it on Twitter and social media at a very safe social media distance, pun intended. But now it's starting to get a little bit too close, huh? Starting to hit a little bit too close to home. See, 2 days of protests were okay for your clicks. 2 days of protests were okay when you got to play partisan politics and partisan games the way y'all generally do. When you got to be the white savior, but your witty quips are running out. You're not the witty tweets where you get your little 16,000 retweets and likes and get to pat yourself on the back like a nice little white savior, nice little white knight. They're running out, aren't they? You're tired of being exhausted from being tired, from being exhausted, from dealing with these issues every single day, huh? It is exhausting, isn't it? It really is. I know, trust me. Because this is what I have to deal with every day of my life. I have to police myself. I can't go to certain places by myself. I couldn't even walk on South Beach by myself without being considered a drug dealer and arrested on the spot. With the lie that, oh, you don't have a state ID, therefore we can arrest you. Even though I had a military ID. I can't even let my friend walk around the street by like, hey man, where you going? Well, we got go. I'm walking to McDonald's. Okay, let's walk together. This is life. And it's a life that we live in large part because of the policies of Joe Biden and the Democrats. And, of course, the policies of Republicans as well, because Ronald Reagan definitely played his part. But, of course, Joe Biden's a nominee now. So you better get in line. You better go vote for him. Without acknowledging the fact that people like myself and people like my team tried to warn you. This was coming. And if we don't deal with election fraud, if we don't deal with election integrity, if we don't start telling the truth about what's happening, and if we don't start acknowledging the people who are introducing these policies to try and prevent a Biden scenario, this is going to be the outcome where we all lose. And unfortunately, we're here. We are here. Now, the question is, now that we are here, what are you going to do about it? Ladies and gentlemen of the world, are you going to pretend like voting for another racist over a segregationist is the right answer? Because last I checked, I've seen a lot of city ordinances being passed all of a sudden to rein in the power of police to hold to account police brutality. All of a sudden, I've been seeing it. Minneapolis just passed a whole slew of reform. A bunch of people, all of a sudden, now that they scared that their store gonna get lit up, now that they're afraid because black people and poor people are in their rich neighborhoods, because it's protesting every day, because they're being put on camera every single day, all of a sudden, a vote wasn't what caused reform, but your outrage and your organizing did. It's almost like that's historically what has caused reform in this country. Because it is. Like I always say, marriage equality was brought about because a couple fought for their rights every single step of the way, and it was overturned by the Supreme Court. And that's for every type of LGBTQ, interracial marriage, whatever you want to say. It was a couple who fought. Why do you think? So the Democrats back in the day were trying to ban black people from participating in Democratic primary. Do you know what that took? It took a man with the means, a black man with the means to organize and fight, that was able to appeal it to the Supreme Court and won. And that's why black people were allowed to participate in primaries today. Did y'all know that? Why do you think LBJ signed the Civil Rights Amendments? Because he and the rest of Congress were terrified. People were on Capitol Hill about to tear that bitch down. Even these people that are in office right now are exhausted. They are having to wake up every single day and deal with the same thing. It was cute and fun for the first 2 days, right? It ain't fun when you gotta deal with it every single day. And these protesters and these organizers are out here making sure that these low stamina politicians, these low stamina cops, are having to deal with this every single day. To the point where now I'm looking at my damn Instagram like, oh, look, there's another one. Oh, there's another one. Oh, there's another one. Oh, they already have one planned for tomorrow. Oh, they already have one planned for the next 3 days. All right. It isn't, yeah, it's important to exercise your right to vote. But it is more important for you to exercise your right to fight. So what are you going to do? You're going to pretend like there's a lesser of two evils here? Or are you going to fight like hell to make sure that you are in control of your country rather than allowing it to be controlled by megalomaniacs and psychopaths? That's your choice to make. We got one more topic. I know we're getting a little bit. It's getting a little bit later. Glory, thank you very much for the super chat. The curfews and martial law do suck as well. Didn't Miami change theirs back to 10 after Friday's protest? I don't know. I thought we were at 12. I don't know. But the martial law does. But that's once again something else we have to challenge. I see you out there, Glory. For those of you who don't know, Glory has been out these protests. Glory has been out these protests, raising hell, doing her thing. Glory's at every damn protest. Glory's always at protest. I met Glory in person at a protest. She's always there. I don't know how the hell she be doing it all, but I mean, if she can do it, you can too. That's all I'm saying. All right, we're gonna do one more. We're gonna do one more topic. Did y'all know Nancy Pelosi endorsed AOC? Or excuse me, reverse. You know Pelosi endorsed AOC? There you go. Yeah, I said that right. Yeah, the first time I said it right. Pelosi endorsed AOC. I got confused because I wanted to say AOC endorsed Pelosi because basically she has by not endorsing Shahid, even though, you know, Pelosi is the corporate Democrat that, you know, the Just Democrats supposedly picked up AOC to combat every step of the way. Remember that? Remember how y'all were like, Niko, why are you being so hard on AOC? I mean, we know she literally has introduced 2 resolutions, 1 complete and total trash resolution that it was never going to do anything, and 2, you don't even know what the second resolution was, do you? Nope, you don't. I know she literally hasn't done anything to earn this type of loyalty and respect, and she's done a lot of suspect stuff and thrown a lot of her allies under the bus along the way, and supported a lot of neoliberals over the last couple of years. But Niko, you're being way too hard on AOC. We just need to give her a chance. And as we're capping off her first term, she is endorsed by the corporate leader of the Democrats. But I'm sure that's just because of all of her progressive fighting in Congress. Because you know Nancy Pelosi called herself progressive too. And whoever called themselves a progressive, we're not supposed to look at the facts. We're supposed to just believe them, take them at the word. Nancy Pelosi doesn't endorse progressives. And progressives, at least the ones that called themselves just Democrats once upon a time, they don't accept endorsements from people like Nancy Pelosi. But more specifically, they fight with the people who are trying to oust people like Nancy Pelosi. And I'm not even a big fan of Shahid because his character's a little bit inconsistent about when it comes to how he, you know, how he moves at times. He was very, very like pro-Warren, and even though he has great policies, he was super anti-Tulsi, which seemed to be for a personal reason. But like, you can't be pro-Warren, anti-Tulsi, then pro-Bernie, and then, you know what I'm saying? Like, but that doesn't, but compared to Nancy Pelosi, Shahid is a damn angel compared to Nancy Pelosi. And we were wondering. I wasn't wondering. I knew this was coming actually, but people were wondering. Well, I understand. Why hasn't AOC endorsed Shahid against Nancy Pelosi? That doesn't make any sense. Why hasn't Ro Khanna endorsed Shahid against Nancy Pelosi? Why hasn't Bernie Sanders endorsed Shahid against Nancy Pelosi? I mean, as complimentary as all three of them have been when it comes to Nancy Pelosi, I don't understand why y'all saw any other outcome. It's sad, but it didn't take, like, it wasn't rocket science for me to figure out what was happening to AOC. But people were so biased about their love for Bernie that anytime somebody like a Ro Khanna or AOC would come in and even Warren to a degree, say something nice about Bernie Sanders, give some fake endorsement that's completely based on whatever they could gain from that endorsement, y'all swear to God, these people are allies. And I'm like, okay, point to policies. I don't define my allies just by them saying a few nice words about somebody else I consider an ally. I define my allies by action. And since AOC has gotten into Congress, what action has she taken? What ideological consistency has she shown? None. I told you, the moment that we found those tweets where she was kissing Tulsi Gabbard's ass and then absolutely refused to work with her on climate change, which is supposed to be AOC's wheelhouse, and it is absolutely Tulsi's, which is crazy to say, but that's like her best bill is her off act. It is literally endorsed by 400 climate environmental organizations, and you are like, nah, I'm not gonna work with you on that, even though I said I was going to, and oh, by the way, I'm going to ignore you and not work with you on any legislation, even the ones to end war in Syria and stop arming terrorists, and the one where Tulsi introduced legislation to hold the president accountable for things that he was doing in places like Iran, Syria, etc., etc. Remember, because you were so against the AOC, and then Tulsi introduced the bills to fight that shit, and you were like, nah, I'm good. How anyone could not see this coming means that, oh yeah, you were biased. You were actually the sycophant. Even AOC's endorsement of Bernie was suspect. And because people were so blinded by the feel-good narratives that were being put out there by PR, they weren't seeing it. I'm like, y'all are aware that she just spent 10 months inexplicably propping up Warren. And then she gets to come out after Bernie gets a damn stent in his heart. Like it was nothing. The surgery was nothing. It was easy. It was not an invasive surgery. But guess what? That story got turned around and, oh my God, AOC endorsed Bernie at his lowest moment. Well, why the hell didn't she endorse him in the beginning where she could have killed Elizabeth Warren's momentum? Oh, that's right, because she was too busy doing videos with Elizabeth Warren. You know, the woman who just stabbed the entire progressive movement in the back in 2016? And did it again and again and again, all the way through 2020? That's what AOC was busy doing for 10 months. She capitalized on an opportunity that y'all gave her. And she capitalized on a narrative that y'all became fixated on. And it was a false narrative to begin with. Anyone that was actually being objective could see she was taking advantage of y'all's sympathy for Bernie and y'all's infatuation with Bernie. She showed us who she was over a year ago. And y'all kept telling, give her a chance, give her a chance, give her a chance. Bruh, her term is about to be over. How many more chances how many are we giving her? November's gonna come. Well, she's only been in Congress for one term. Then she's gonna get elected to the Senate. Well, she's only just gotten the Senate. Let's just give her a chance. I don't mind mistakes. What I don't like and what I will not tolerate is calculated betrayal and disloyalty and inconsistency. And that's all AOC has been for the last year and a half. I mean, the woman had the nerve to get on NPR and say, well, you know, Tara Reid didn't say that she wasn't voting for Biden. Well, what? Yeah. See, AOC was a good little Democrat, endorsed Joe Biden, didn't endorse Shahid Buttar, didn't endorse Cori Bush, made sure she distanced herself away from Tim Canova when he was running, didn't endorse Jen Perlman against Debbie Wasserman Schultz, and she got rewarded with an endorsement, which, by the way, she didn't really need. But what that endorsement from Nancy Pelosi does is signals the elite, the Democratic elite in NYC, to stay out of that election so that AOC can win. All I'm saying is the writing has been on the wall. Just some of y'all were refusing to read it. And now you can't deflect the Tulsi, can you? You can't deflect over and over and over. You can't blame somebody else. You can't do it. And if maybe y'all could have probably saved AOC if y'all are willing to hold her accountable, but you were never willing to hold her accountable. And unfortunately, even Bernie in his behavior has shown if you are too scared to hold your leaders accountable, to hold your quote unquote heroes accountable, this is inevitable. This behavior is inevitable. The capitulation is inevitable. Y'all let her get away with problematic statement after problematic stance after problematic policies after, like, literally, bro, the Tara Reid thing should have been it. This is the moment if AOC, she didn't sign any contract. At least Bernie and Tulsi and Yang and Marianne Williamson signed contracts. She didn't sign a contract. You just endorsed Biden for your own personal agenda. There was nothing, but that's because she's never been a revolutionary. But hey, she's made a lot of money off of y'all though. Yo, you know how much she raised? I think she's raised the most out of any congressional candidate for her race so far. I told her on her post, because she sponsored a post and somehow it reached me on Facebook. I said, I will donate to your campaign as many dollars as bills you have produced. I mean, I really didn't donate, but still a funny joke. I said, that's $2. It's $2. $2. Bro, you know how many bills, if you combine all her damn tweets, you know how many bills she could have? That if you could put something together as big as a goddamn Patriot Act, if you combine all the tweets that she spent all her time putting out with no action. But y'all are giving her millions of dollars to run again for what? But hey, y'all about to get y'all's money worth, because y'all know Nancy Pelosi, she only endorses the best. Right. So, with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, thank you all so much for tuning into this live stream segment of Mika Says Su Casa. Make sure that you subscribe. Make sure you like this video. Make sure you share it. Make sure you follow us on Rockfin as well, ROKFIN.com/Niko. Niko, not Nico. I'm looking at you people. You C's. All right. Other than that, always remember, more than anything else, find your balance. Peace. If you like that segment of Mika Says Su Casa, don't forget to like the video and smash that subscribe button. Want access to members only live streams, behind the scenes footage, and other premium content? Well, you can endorse us on Rockfin Premium, become a patron through Patreon, or you can sign up for the MCSC Premium membership through YouTube. All the links are in the description below. But hey, more than anything else, always remember,
find your balance.
Find your balance.
Find your balance.
Find your balance. Find your balance.
Find your balance. Find your balance.
Always remember, more than anything else, find your balance.
peace.